At the scale-up stage, founders need fewer opinions and more operator-grade insight. That's the spirit behind the Swisspreneur Scale-Up Circle, our curated community of Swiss Series A+ founders and operators, co-led by Philip Sali and Lars Mangelsdorf of Yokoi. This episode is part of the Circle's dedicated monthly content. For all the other parts of the Circle, the in-person events, the scale-up slopes, cruises, and investment opportunities, visit swisspreneur.org to find out more. Now, let's get started with today's Circle content. What does it really take to turn breakthrough science into a company? In this episode, Daniela Marino, co-founder and CEO of Cutiss, shares how she went from scientist to founder of one of Switzerland's most ambitious TechBio companies. Starting with little exposure to the startup world, Daniela had to learn many of the basics while building the company in real time. Through persistence, curiosity, and surrounding herself with the right people, she grew Cutiss into a company developing personalized skin tissue therapies with real-world impact. She also reflects on what that impact looks like for patients, including how the technology is helping victims of the recent Crans-Montana tragedy. Daniela also reveals the unconventional path behind Cutiss' growth, raising over 100 million francs, largely without traditional venture capital, and navigating the long road from academic research to clinical trials and soon market approval. If you're interested in tech bio, deep tech, or transitioning from academia to the startup world and turning science into impact, this conversation is a must listen for you.
Welcome to the Swisspreneur Show, a podcast about startup stories and learnings from experienced entrepreneurs. If you enjoy listening to our show, make sure to follow the podcast and leave a rating. And now, here's your host, Phil.
Welcome, Daniela, to the Swisspreneur podcast, the Scale-Up Circle, which is kind of a special circle, given that in Switzerland, we're trying to make sure that, more and more startups are entering the scale-up phase. So really, really great having you here. Daniela is the co-founder and CEO of Cutiss, a late-stage tech bio company developing personalized skin tissue therapies for reconstructive surgery. With skin tissue therapy, obviously now, given that the entire tragedy of Crans-Montana has happened beginning of the year, This is something that probably has been shifting more and more into the media. And therefore, we now have quite some time to talk about Cutiss, to talk about the entire therapy. But let's start from basically the very beginning. Mm-hmm. So you spent a lot of time in academia.
Yes.
and what was the time you realized that you really want to go and create a company out of that?
Yeah. Yes. It was almost like a natural shift from me, because the reason why I wanted to be a researcher and a scientist from the very beginning on was to try and develop something innovative for people. For people in need, and it was medical from the beginning. So I studied biotechnology. I came to Zurich for my PhD, and it was all about development and stem cells and regeneration. So this was the leitmotif of my research theory. And when I arrived at the University of Zurich, the project was rather at the beginning. There was some tests, some good ideas, some good assumptions, and thanks to a European grant, which I was involved in, we actually arrived in first in human. And that is the highlight for every scientist, when you see what you're working on gets on the clinics, right? And it's skin. So we could see with our naked eyes that the first patient looked good, the second patient looked good, the third patient. And I thought, okay, but now what's next? I immediately had the vision like, okay, I think it works. I'm going to bet on it. So what's next? And there was not much more options than, if not, packing this project into a product and start developing a business, because there is no other alternative otherwise to pay and support the long development that takes you to market. We are still here. We are still not approved. So it's decades of work. And creating a company felt like the the only step actually available. So I just went on it.
And we're glad you did.
Yes.
So basically, when we look at the research at the university, is it something that you believe is kind of the natural step that it typically turns into a company later on, especially with something like your field? Or could you have stayed at university and basically researched much more about it?
No, I think option 2 doesn't work. I mean, staying at university longer would have been making everything slower, harder to finance, because there is certain grants for, preclinical and early clinical, but at one point nobody is giving you a grant for a phase 2 or a phase 3, and you need so much competencies which are more industrial, than academic to run this, that it's extremely hard. I mean, there is a good example though. In Italy, there is one non-profit organization which managed to have a cell therapy approved fully without having any industry or any company behind, but it's a big organization with lots of people and lots of expertise. So there is maybe there are ways to do it, but I think the majority of products need to get off the ends of academia at one point. It's just too complex to bring it to market.
Yeah. Is it something that you feel is being pushed enough in universities?
No, absolutely not. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I've been away now for quite some time from academia, so I can just tell you what I myself experienced. There was a lot of pushback. There was no push at all. I mean, it was like, why? How? But you cannot. But this is never going to work. But don't you have another option? But then can't we do something else? But who's mentoring you? But who told you? And I was like, I mean, come on. I mean, I don't know, but I'm just gonna try. And that was actually my naive approach. I thought I don't really have much to lose. I'm young. I speak languages. I can travel. If this fails, it's not the end of my life, right? So I'm just gonna try as hard as I can, and it worked. But I didn't really have much support. In the right direction. So
okay. Because it's something
from academia.
Yeah. It's something I hear a lot, and it's probably also a very difficult topic. It's like, how do you support a project or many projects then to really become company? I think business schools have been doing that now for quite some time, but in the research area, I think there is probably some space there for improvement.
Yeah. Absolutely, and it just needs a bit of listening, I think. Scientists have always good ideas, and it's always a try and learn and try and retry. It's called research, right? I mean, you are used to go and fail and try again. And I think, what I missed was really somebody sitting down and listening to me and say, okay, maybe that's not too bad. And at the end, my professor, which was my boss back then, finally agreed that this was a good idea to go. But academia is not just my professor. There was a big machine around that. And I felt little listened. That's what I felt.
Okay.
Yeah.
What I hear a lot is that scientists, when they go out in entrepreneurship, they worry that they're not scientists anymore. They become the evil capitalistic.
They turn to the dark side.
Yes. Is that something that you ever thought about or not at all?
For sure, as a scientist, you are at the bench, you read tons of publications, you go to international scientific conferences, you talk to other scientists. That I don't do as much as I used to do anymore. So there is definitely a piece of you that it's dying slowly and getting smaller. But I am still thinking in a scientific way, and I am still on top of the development of the product. I grasp the biology of it. I'm not just the CEO. I am behind the product, and I know the details, the nitty-gritty details. So, but it's just an evolution. It's not research per se. It's research applied translationally to clinical use. And so, but it's still very scientific. It's the hardest thing for a scientist. That was my, personal experience, was to start talking about science to non-scientists.
Yeah.
When you start creating the company, you need to pitch the story to people that look at you like, huh? And you're like, what? I think it's clear. They're like, no.
Yeah.
That took a lot of time to try and, still clean, have a clean message, scientifically proven and scientifically strong, but in a language and in a way that everybody could get it. That was a lot of work.
I'm sure. I sometimes even believe it could be an advantage, no, coming from
Maybe.
science. There are good examples of big, CEOs out there that really come from ETH, come
Yes.
from the science world. Not all of them coming from the HSG world, from the business world. I'm sure there's also some advantages to that.
Yeah.
So, from discovery, this all turned into a company,
Yeah.
a real, just a normal, basically startup.
Yeah.
Yeah, startup. What kind of mindset shift was that for you when you left academia and when you realized, hey, now we're a company?
I mean, the mind shift was really something which I didn't know how to handle because I felt out of my comfort zone and I didn't know 90% of the things that I was supposed to know. So that was tough because I had to really get down to the basics, even the terms. I will never forget the first time I went to one of these training events, coaching events, and somebody said, "Oh, when you pitch," I literally raised my hand and I said, "Sorry, what's a pitch?" And everybody was like, "Who is this weirdo here? This is a startup event." And that is probably one of my best skills. I mean, I never take things personally, and I just thought it's so fun. I have so much more to learn, and I couldn't stop. So I was really trying to educate myself the fastest I could, but at the same time while building the company. So I learned while doing, and I think that's also a huge advantage because I didn't know how other people do it, and I never read a textbook on that, so I never really followed mainstream, and I absorbed as much as I could from all possible coaches and mentors, and I had many. I'm lucky I had so many, but I always thought, okay, that's what I heard, that's how I'm gonna do it, and I think that was altogether stressful, heavy, because I mean, I basically knew nothing, but it was extremely motivating because I thought, I have a chance, to do something different in my life, and let's try. So the shift was hard but fun at the same time.
Nice. Do you think it was it's difficult to kind of like become a CEO with all those terms and knowing investors? Because I'm coming from business school, and for me, wasn't such a big deal. And I always imagine it being probably quite tough in the beginning and then really becoming used to it quite quickly.
I think it was tough, and it's still tough. I mean, I don't think it has got easier over time. But one thing I can say is that I never pretended I could do it alone. And I immediately started getting help and started reaching out to people. And the company was created in March 2017. And I immediately hired, a super big shot, which traveled from Singapore to come to work for Cutiss. And I realized I can't do this myself. I mean, I have a lot of ideas. I know exactly where I want to go. I have the vision. I know what mission I want to embark with, but I cannot do this alone. And to me, that was the only rescue boat. I mean, without my team around, even if at the beginning we were like 4 or 5 people, but this was like my anchor. And whatever I didn't know, I could ask, and whatever they didn't know either, we would find a way. And I think alone, this would have not been possible. I mean, it's just too much work. But I was lucky to really engage immediately with a couple of really good people, which are still with me. Yes. And we just started sailing together. And it worked.
Fully agree. I mean, we started with 5 co-founders.
Yes.
And I'm so happy.
Yeah.
I mean, I always think you have those, companies like Facebook, basically, Mark Zuckerberg.
One guy in a garage, right?
It must be so depressing.
Exactly. It must be so sad.
How did you find your first employees, your co-founders?
Yes. I mean, the co-founders were basically coming from academia. So they were literally my boss, the professor at the university, and my colleague. So the founding team was just an extended academic team. But as I said, I mean, this is not sufficient. So day one, I started looking for people with the industry expertise. And I knew that the product itself is a very complex product because it's a tissue therapy. I mean, there is not that many tissue around. So I needed somebody that could do the full CMC, the full development, the full control and manufacturing and everything. So that was my first hire. I was looking literally globally. And I called a couple of people that told me, no, it's not me, but it will be this person. No, it's not me, but it will be this person. So everybody pointed at this one person.
Okay.
And I'm like, damn, I mean,
You need that person.
I need that person. And that person happened to be living in Singapore. And I'm like, damn. But I had my pitch and it worked.
Very good.
And he's still with us. So yeah.
Nice.
And then of course he brought in a lot of expertise, industrial expertise. He was working in the US, he was working in Canada, he was working in Singapore, he was working in China. He had a huge pool in his network, and that's where they all, like connecting the dots started. And yeah, that's great.
Nice.
It
nice.
worked.
How is it with like finding offices and laboratories? Because for us, we only had office. It was really easy. Finding office space is easy. How is it with laboratories?
Yeah, it was tough because we don't need just a laboratory. We need a GMP. So it has to be a super hyper qualified facility. And we ended up building our own because we couldn't find one. So that was another big decision because a lot of investors don't like you to spend money on CapEx.
Yeah.
And my pitch was like, if I can build it myself, I will be in control of the process and we will be faster, cheaper and everything. If I now need to give this production to a CDMO, I'll lose control day one and I'm going to be stuck. And we ended up building our facility in Schlieren and it's perfect. And since then, I mean, we are good to go. So yeah, it was not easy to find. Actually, we didn't find it. So we built it ourselves.
Nice. That's startup life. Oh, I love it. I love it. Let's talk about the product.
Yeah.
The NovoSkin. Basically for someone like me, someone coming from business
school.
like what is it and how is it fundamentally different from what there is already out there in the market?
Yeah. So skin is an organ, right? So it's actually our largest organ. An average person has about 1.7 square meters of skin on, so it's quite a large area. And it's a complex organ. You have multiple cells, you have appendices, you have different functionality, glands and nerves and blood vessels and everything. So we are nobody is able to bioengineer the full organ quite yet. But of course, tissue engineering is a reality today. And there is also good examples finally on the market. So one can, as of today, buy corneas. They're approved. You can buy blood vessels. We are coming in with skin. There is more to come. So tissues are kind of basically the backbone of the organ. And what you can do is to try and use tissue to regenerate, this part of the body when there is a need to do so. So what we do is that we start from skin and very, very thin layer of skin, and it's very tiny. So it's as small as a stamp. And from this biopsy, we take cells, the stem cells of the patient himself. And then we expand the cells. So from a small little tiny piece, we can grow a sufficient amount of cells that then we can use our bioengineering technique to actually go back and form a skin tissue. Skin tissue meaning it's a bilayer. You have an epidermal compartment on the top and a dermal compartment down. It's 1 millimeter thick. You can suture it, you can staple it, you can scissor it, you can glue it if you want. So it's a tissue. Mm-hmm. And it has the right structural component to actually adapt to the body and regenerate. And it has the right biological components for the skin to basically grow and stay with the patients forever. So the mode of action is permanent take. I graft it once, and if the patient is growing, it grows with him. If the patient is expanding, it expands with it. Mm-hmm. And that's the difference between what we do and other technologies or products available. I don't know, for example, cell sprays or cell sheets, where you do provide some sort of solution to cover wounds, but there is no real regenerative tissue underlying that procedure. And that makes a difference, because what we have shown now repeatedly in published peer-reviewed publications and studies, we achieve a much better scar quality because it's a tissue that regenerates. It's not just closing a wound and hoping that everything is fine. So it's a shift of paradigm, because it's really trying to have a regenerative solution rather than just a wound care solution.
So it's basically your own skin.
It's your own skin, but it's still a tissue. So if the wounds that we are treating are very, very deep, there is no way to regenerate the glands and the hair. This will always remain a tissue in a way. I mean, not a full skin. If the wounds are not that deep, then there is plenty of possibility for the appendices to grow back and be almost like natural skin. Yeah.
Okay, so it's just for the heavy cases, basically.
Exactly.
How big can you make that?
So we start from a biopsy a size of a stamp, a post stamp, and within 3 to 4 weeks, we can make an expansion between 100x and a 500x from that. But of course, when patients need much more than this, they're usually very injured and they are in the hospital a long time and they have a sequence of surgeries. They're not being grafted at once. So what we developed is a process that can actually accommodate multiple rounds. So we can treat patients as of today, I mean, pretty much to the extent that they need without any big limitations. As of today, the largest area we treated was the size of 40 units of the NovoSkin, and 1 unit is the size of a palm at the moment. So this was quite a lot of surface. Yeah.
Wow. Is it going to be visible later on, or does it grow together with the skin invisibly?
So the skin that we graft is its skin, so it doesn't get overgrown by anything. It remains where we leave it. Yeah. So it regenerates, but going upwards, there is no overgrown. What we see is sometimes a difference with the healthy skin. You can see that there is something a little bit more pale. There is no hair, in certain areas. But what matters the most is when you compare it to the standard of care. And there you see a huge improvement when it comes to elasticity, smoothness, pliability. It's soft. You can pinch it. It's very smooth. And the standard of care is a scar. Yeah. And that is really the big advantage.
Okay, nice. So you're at late stage clinical trials and preparing for, Phase 3, very good. What are the next steps? What have you done in the last years? And with Crans-Montana, were you able to help there?
Yeah, with the Crans-Montana tragedy, I mean, we started the year really super active because clearly we can help. And we have a product which has been designed for severely burned patients, right? And what is the interesting thing about the NovoSkin is that it's the only product that can help now with an acute burn, but can also be used later, even years later, to reconstruct those contracting scars and provide relief. So we started the year with the mission, let's help as much as we can. And of course, we started and we're active and we'll try our best to provide the technology whenever needed. I mean, what happened was really, a really big emotional roller coaster for us and for, I think, the country.
Yeah. I'm sure. Thanks a lot for helping
Sure.
there. Thanks a lot.
And to the question about where we are. So during the academic times, we ended phase 1. So we could show safety. When the company started, we embarked into phase 2. So now we have shown efficacy as well with 3 years follow-up. So it's quite an interesting approach we took, like long-term. And now we started phase 3. And we are in the middle of it. We have 20 centers open in Europe. It's a gigantic phase 3 trial.
Wow.
And so the next milestone is to complete that recruitment and confirm the data of phase 2. And with this data, we can then start the conversation about market authorization. So that's really like we see the light at the end of the tunnel.
So that's months rather than years, or still years rather than decades?
I mean, the submission, it's probably, in the double-digit months, but, we're getting there. The authorization is not in our hands. I mean, it's an orphan. We have an orphan drug status for the NovoSkin for burns, so we will enter into these fast-track reviews and fast-track authorization modes. Yeah. But it just takes a year plus for authorities to grant the authorization. So on our side, we are getting ready. When we finally get the stamp, I can't tell you. Don't ask me that.
Okay.
But hopefully soon. I mean, we are focusing on our part. We'll do as much as we can.
Sure. How is it about internationalization? Because I assume every country is different there.
So in Switzerland, we are under the umbrella of Swissmedic. So that's our counterpart for the authorization. And we are very lucky about Swissmedic and very happy about the collaboration with Swissmedic because the team is extremely involved. I mean, we can get their recommendations, we can talk to them. So it's a blessing because in contrast, the European agency, the EMA, is much more complex because it deals with all the member states and you have commissions of the commissions, and it's much harder to interact. I mean, we're still good on track, but it's much harder. So it's a blessing to be in Switzerland, to be honest.
Nice.
With the US, we also started the conversation there. Of course, this will take a little longer eventually, because all the clinical trials we have done so far have been in Europe and Switzerland. We also treated a patient in Boston a year ago, so this also made big headlines because it was a crazy case, and we really did a good job there. And yeah, I mean, it is challenging because it's a new type of products. So again, I can't follow the book of anybody else, really. Yeah. So it's very important to have a good interaction with the regulatory, for sure. And yeah, we'll see what the conversation will be on. But what is very good about Europe is the fact that there is a lot of focus on the safety and the unmet need. So that's the need. Is your product filling the need, yes or no? If the answer is yes, without any little shadows around, the conversation is different than if it's just another product similar to something else. So I think that it's interesting. And now the geographic expansion will follow certain strategy. So, certain agencies have bilaterals with other agencies, even across the ocean, even in the APAC region. Slowly, Middle East is rising up. South Africa is rising up. So we are focusing right now on Europe and Switzerland, but we will try to use certain bilaterals situations to maybe accelerate certain geographies over others. But one thing at a time, guys. I mean, already going through Europe is...
I'm sure. Not too easy.
Challenging.
How is it as a patient who would like to receive it, but if it's not yet released officially, can you opt in as a patient?
So that's an excellent question. So at the moment, the product is available under the framework of the clinical studies. So we have 20 centers open. If a patient is injured and is admitted in one of these 20 hospitals, and these are the biggest hospitals, so that's our biggest chance, then they can be approached and they need to consent to the use of the product. And they need to be under the framework of the phase 3, which means they need to come for visits. They need to, they need to be part of the journey basically with us. And I will never be grateful enough to all these patients that actually make it happen, because if nobody would consent, this study wouldn't go, right? So they are as part of the team as anybody else. But there is also situations where patients need it. And we have had multiple of these cases, but this patient is not in the study, is not eligible for the study for whatever reason, or it's not in the center. And then we can actually treat these patients under compassionate use. So the PI or the surgeon will take the responsibility of applying a product which is not approved, but it has been declared safe already. So the risk is minimal. So the risk benefit is higher on the benefit than the risk. And we have done that already 8 times. And because of Crans-Montana, the number will grow this year, but we'll do our best to help as many as we can.
Okay. So, how does a doctor know about you?
Well, that's why you need podcasts. And,
that's the right answer.
So you need to create awareness. You need to create, a strategy to make sure that if people look online, because that's how new patients are doing today. I mean, everybody's Googling and asking ChatGPT, where is the best therapy, right? So you got to pop up when things are searched. But the community of skin surgery, especially in Barnes, is rather small. And we attend all the international meetings. We attend all the most relevant meetings. So there you have all the right people that need to hear about you at least once. And as of today, I mean, we are pretty known in the space. So I would doubt that there is a professor somewhere in the Western world, but even in Asia slowly, that does specifically this kind of surgeries has never heard of Cutiss. I mean, we are really trying to create awareness. We cannot do any promotions, and we don't, because the product is not on the market, but we go give talks, we present the data, and that's working because the community is not gigantic.
So that's a good thing. There's a smaller group of experts that you gotta convince or you gotta reach.
One after the other.
Is it a big part of your job, traveling there, showing what you're doing, giving talks?
Yes, I mean, I don't do that on my own. So we have also our chairman of the board, for example, is a medical doctor, which is now retired. So he's also going, he was just in China, for example. He was He went to Israel. So he can present the data, and he's a medical doctor, so he can talk to the medical community better than I can do, right?
Yeah.
So that really helps a lot. And we have a couple of other medical advisors, a French, a Dutch, an Italian, and these guys go to medical conferences and they have the chance to then present the data. So it's not just me. There is a community of doctors now which are supporting me with that, and that's great because again, if a medical doctor talks to medical doctors, they're trustworthy. They can also, get questions about things which I would not be able to answer, medical conditions, medical states, infections. I mean, I'm not a doctor, right? So yeah. I think that's a blessing too, to have a small team of trusted people that can help us with that. Yeah. And then there is a lot of other scientific conferences we go, and, Cell and Gene and other things where you have other commercial players in the same field. That's also important. You need to spread awareness also, not just in the medical community, but on the market as well, on the peers.
Sure. How important is kind of like classical marketing or SEO, or I mean, by now there is GEO, generative engine optimization, with a Swiss startup, Postmark,
yes, exactly.
in there. How important is that you kind of actually pop up on those search?
I mean, for us, it has been vital because I don't know if you know or if you will ask me later, but the way we have fundraised so far has been very peculiar. We don't have VCs on the cap table. We only have private individuals and foundations and family offices. And these investors, they search. They need to find you and you need to find them. And so for us, it's been essential to be able to be found. And patients find us too, and patients call their doctors, and then the doctors call us. And I mean, I have, even on my private accounts on Instagram, and I'm bad. I mean, I have 130 followers, of which half is my family. So, I mean, really bad. But even this small presence is sufficient for people to find information today. I mean, it's incredible how... Yeah, I mean, people know about the technology and they just follow us on LinkedIn or on Facebook, and it works. I mean, because today patients of our age or older, they immediately go search for the best solution. And that was absolutely not the case 20 years ago or even 15 years ago. You would just go to your doctor would say there is nothing, you will go home and open a beer. Now it's like, nothing. Let me find it. Yeah. Let me see if it's true that there is nothing, which has pros and cons. But that's why, to answer your question, I mean, the whole marketing around this kind of product, because the NovoSkin, it can be used for severely burned patients, which are not going to search for stuff. I mean, they have an accident and they go to the hospital. But it can be used to remove scars or to remove giant nevi or to remove a cancer. So these would be patients that could actually start digging around and searching. And so the whole marketing has to be remodeled now to modern patients.
Has it happened that patients have actually reached out to you
instead
of
daily.
To the doctors?
Daily.
Oh, really? What do you say?
I try to ask them, please not to send me pictures.
Okay.
Because I have a lot of very weird pictures on my phone. And I ask them to describe the problem, and I tell them that I will forward this summary to our medical experts and to see what they recommend. And the recommendation could be to visit a certain specialist there and there, or to have another consultation. Or eventually, when we had our clinical trial open for reconstructions, we could even say, look, I mean, the study is open here and there.
You can enroll.
That's the name of the surgeon. Your surgeon can talk to the other surgeon. There is more than this we cannot do right now. But I get, I mean, really, honestly, almost daily some requests from all over the world.
Because people are desperate for...
People are curious, desperate, and they probably tried different things, spend a lot of money, and they are rather pissed. I mean, I wouldn't say desperate, but it's really like frustrated.
Okay.
And they just want to have a little bit of hope. Many patients that called me in the past, I can't do anything for them right now, but it's like there is hope. We're getting there. Hold tight, and that's a lot. Very often, what people need is a little bit of hope to say, maybe not today, but give it a few years. Give me the trust, and I'll come back to you with something. And very often that's a huge help for them. Huge.
Nice, very nice. So let's talk about a bit of business.
All right, businessman.
You grew from a small team to 60 people.
Yes.
How is that? You know,
Oh my gosh,
you're
it's
a
painful.
company now.
Yes, we are a company. Oh my gosh.
Performance reviews,
Oh my God,
all
please.
that stuff.
Can we just keep this? No, it's tough. I mean, the HR part of this growth is it's hard, and it doesn't really get better. And yeah, it's challenging and it takes a lot of time. So, the human factor is extremely hard to handle. We have 17 nationalities at Cutiss. The youngest employee is 24. The oldest is 65. So broad range and different languages, and and it's different generations to handle. People have different requests, different feedback to what we do. So one of the big lessons is really think business. The company has to go on. We do this for the patients. Don't forget that focus. You can't make everybody happy. So there is really days where tough decision needs to be made, and there is no perfect recipe for many of these HR related topics. So it's also important to keep up with new tools and new ways of doing things, and to have the right people on board that also trust the top management, because some decisions are just to be made, and it's a tough job. And the growth is also, I mean, for us, like for many startups, it didn't come on a nice curve, you know.
Yeah.
It's like boom from 20 to 40, boom from 40 to 60, and whoa, I mean, it's challenging. Yes.
Yeah.
And we had the biggest growth during the COVID time. So I will never forget, we were having all these interviews. We literally went from 20 to 40 during the pandemic. And we had all the interviews online. And then when people were coming, they all had a mask. And at one point, I was like, who's that?
You didn't even know
who's she again? Because online, I saw her, but online you can't. And it's like, okay.
First time in
curly
real
hair,
life.
Straight hair. Which one was it again?
Mask.
It was horrible. But I mean, those times were tough.
Were you able to work during COVID?
We had to. I mean, we had to pause the clinical trial because the EMA said that all unnecessary surgeries were to be skipped, and so we had to pause for a few months. So we had a little delay on the trial, but we kept working. I mean, we had as much as possible home office, but when you are in the lab, you can't do home office. So we had to implement immediately some guidelines, some rules, work instructions, and and it was basically all done under stress because we didn't know if this was a temporary situation, whether it would last a month or a year or 3. This uncertainty was just killing us, but we survived, thanks God. So all good.
We're all glad.
We were short of gloves. I remember we couldn't find gloves.
Oh, I'm sure. Masks and gloves probably something high demand.
It was a mess. Yeah.
So what's the culture like working at Cutiss?
I mean, the culture really is based on our mantra, which is at Cutiss we care. We all collectively selected a mantra and we have it written. The first thing you read when you come at Cutiss is at Cutiss we care. So that's the culture that we try to bring along. And I mean, it's very hard to have your culture not evolving when you are 4 and now 60, And we thought we need something that can always bring us back to who we are. And we really care. We care about our patients. We care about our employees. We care about our investors. We care about our surgeons that are basically an extended part of the team. And we try to keep that mantra always in mind when we take decisions and when we do things, because we care. And if caring means having to spend extra time, having to do an extra mile, having to do something a bit odd but helpful, then we go for it. And I think that we are really living that one. I mean, there is many things we say, fast growth and resilience and this and that, but when you stop and say I care, so if I care, what do I do? And that I think is what keeps us together. And we are treating patients, so there is a big motivation in the team. They know they're coming to work and doing a long shift, but they know that the skin is reaching somebody at the hospital. So I don't know whether you can keep the same cohesion in a company doing cheese. Eventually you can, but for us is really, I mean, the human component of what we do, it's almost like a mission, to us. So that is the kind of culture we try to live every day. Yeah.
Does it help to have the people in the lab and not remote everywhere?
Oh, we hate remote. I mean, after COVID, we're like, okay, enough of this. I mean, sorry, but Zoom and Teams, it's good, it's handy, it can be very useful. I can basically do a phone call and a meeting from anywhere,
Yeah.
even while I'm boarding a plane, I'm in a meeting and making decisions, but you can't build a company online. I want people to knowing each other. They need to spend some time together. They need to know how to talk to each other. They need to know, a bit of each other to know how to interact. And the thing is that we have people that have to be in because they work in the lab. Yeah. So I immediately said, we can't just say, okay, those that have to are coming and those that don't have to can stay home. To me, again, I care. I don't want the people that are in the in the lab to say, why, this is not,
what are you doing at
eventually
home?
They are not thinking that, but we are all humans, right? So we do not, we can exceptionally, of course, we are not crazy, right? There is situations where it's even better to do home office. If you need to review 300 documents, you better be home and concentrated. But no, we don't believe in home office.
The trend has come back towards.
The trend has come back to me.
Office.
I'm a people person. I want to see and I want to talk and I want to chit chat quickly and I want to say hi. I want to say, how are your kids doing? And when you are on a team, all the meetings are back to back. Call in, call out, call in, call out. You never have this nuance in between, and you can't read the body language. You mute yourself, then unmute yourself.
Yeah.
This whole human component is missing, and I think it's long term is not helping creating a company. When you are Novartis, it's a different thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember the time when we were 20, 30, 60 people, and we were so happy to be. I was right after COVID.
Yeah.
So we were back to the office.
But finally, it's like, finally we can talk to people. Yeah.
Yeah, and you get so much done.
Yeah.
When you're together, and you grab so many ideas and thinking when you're talking to each other. I fully agree. Agree. Good. Let's talk about my favorite topic of investment.
Okay.
We've raised the same amount, about 125 million. Congrats to you. I did it with VCs and you did it without VCs. What was that?
So we can show show that it's possible.
It certainly is.
Oh, what question you asked me. How much time do we have again? Look, when I started, I had no clue, right? I didn't even know what VC means. So I was having my InnoSwiss coach and we started exploring, investment opportunities. And then we had a first investment from the Novartis Venture Fund, joint venture with University of Zurich Stiftung. So there was this life science fund that they created together. We were a spin-off of university. So this was and immediately this, the people of the fund said, hey, now we gotta look for VCs. We are giving you the first injection, but now we need to find VCs. And they brought me to all, to the usual suspects, because we do biotech, because we already had phase 1 finished, because the team is young, and I was pitching, basically being brought, with warm introduction to those VCs, and I think all the usual suspects. And I came back home with 2 empty bags, and one bag said too early, and the other bag said too late. I was in between being too early because, phase 1, we all invest when you show me efficacy. And I was way too late for those that only do preclinical. Yeah. And I was like, and now what? And, I really wanted to build this company. So I started talking to people. And I started joining all the business angel events, all the networking events. And I pitched my story nonstop. And after a while, I realized that people actually wanted to know more. And the first, interest came in, and I decided to open a round with private individuals, because I didn't need 100 millions, right? I thought whatever I can collect is a good start. And, we raised 11 millions from private individuals. And then I said, okay, good. I have enough. This is my early stage investment. I'll go to the VCs once I have more meat around the bone. And then 2020, I went back to the usual suspects again, say, hey, 3 years later, look what I have. The team is now big. We have built a lab, And 2 weeks after I started pitching, COVID comes. So all the big American VCs said, poof, we can't lead around in Europe right now. It's a mess. You guys are going to be stuck with supply chain, blah, blah, blah. So I said, okay, what do I do now? I went back to my families, and we raised 45 million. And I said, okay, that's enough to go to the next step, right? So when we opened the round C, I was like, okay, guys, I have phase 2 data, I have machines, I have a team of 40. Hey!
Yeah.
Oh no, the markets are a mess. I mean, biotech is dead. There is the inflation and disasters. I was like, okay, guys, I mean, I think I have enough.
No.
So I went back to my families. But differently from the other rounds, I also engaged with strategics this time. So, I mean, one of the largest investor in the last round, which I closed last August, is the hospital holding of one of the largest burn units in Europe, in the Netherlands. And we have a collaborative agreement now. So people, this is actually one of my potential clients, which invested a lot of money. So validating my case and my product different ways than with a classical institutional VC check. So, but I went with the flow. It was not, I have nothing against VCs. They just don't like me. I mean, I don't know.
I mean, if there's a VC out there, it's like, not too late. You're serious.
Not too late. I'm here. I'm here. Yes.
Nice. What do you expect now going forward? Do you need much more capital? Are you going to raise?
So now we have raised enough to bring the company to the next value inflection point, which is, having phase 3 completed and have maybe at least one almost soon to have authorization, maybe Switzerland, maybe Europe, we'll see. And also the machines. Let's not forget the Cutiss is not just about the product itself, but it's the whole vision about the automation of the process so that we can grow capacity and scale up and expand. And if I can reach that level of maturity where I have the clinical data done and my machines, in an industrial status, I think that would take the company ready for the next step, which could be a liquidity event. I mean, I don't know,
Okay.
Another private round, a P, an M&A, an IPO, something which will then give me the injection for growth. Because at that point, if I have my approval and my phase 3 is there and my machine is ready, I gotta grow fast. And it needs the right support financially to do that. So we'll see.
Okay, so this will basically be the point when you say, now you're going to grow.
Now it's growth. Yeah, once I get to the level that there is no more, development to do at massive stage, because right now it's all development. I mean, clinical trials, process improvement, Once we are there and we gotta, launch and sell and expand, I mean, it's the company would be on a complete different ramp. So.
And it's also the time when you're allowed to do official marketing, I assume.
Yes, once the product will be approved, then it's all about promotion and marketing and sales, and finding maybe partners in certain geographies and installing facilities. I mean, the idea would be to have the core of the business in Switzerland, but then to have satellite facilities where we can produce close to like very large hospitals, for example. So we gotta grow, and we cannot do that with another private round of 50 million. So we need then a good injection of money to get to the break even for sure. So we'll see.
How much of that preparation work can you already do beforehand? And how much will really depend on that stamp to be there?
I mean, the preparation now is what we talked before, is getting the audience ready. I mean, this is a medicinal product. It will need to be prescribed by a professional, and this professional will need to apply it. So the first thing is trying to get the community around. So my clients are not finding out of the blue from a flyer that we exist, right? So that's really important for us. And so we are working heavily on that because, again, this conversation is very medical, very scientific. There is nothing commercial. That's how we start the conversation. Dear professor, I have nothing to sell, right? I'm talking science here. And that's the perfect time to start, creating the bridges and the trust. And we hope that this pre-launch work will then give us a good, ground to then go to commercial, because at one point this has to happen. But luckily we have really good, connections, and hopefully this collaborators today will be our clients tomorrow, and it's probably a good start. So that's our approach so far. Very scientific and very, very factual.
So you'll basically call them up and say, now we're approved.
Yeah, basically we'll call them up and say, hey, I mean, the product, you have used it, you like it. From now on, you can prescribe it. Here is the code for your hospital, and I'm going to send you my sales team to discuss the details. The process is what you know. So, that's how I picture it in my head.
Okay.
That it's not going to be like, hi, I'm Daniela from Cutiss, So, and again, I have that luxury because the community is not gigantic.
Yes.
So
yes.
I have a good chance to have my circle of trust around the product.
Do you even need a sales team?
We will have to have, I wouldn't call it a sales team. It would be medical personnel that needs to go and explain the procedure, recommendations on how to do the wound bed, recommendation on the dressing. So it has to be somebody extremely medical. It cannot be just a salesperson. We don't have distributors. We don't have stocks. It's almost like a service to the hospital. We have to produce fresh every time. So I cannot go and bring my Depliant and my brochure and say, what do you want to get? I mean, it doesn't work like that, right?
Okay.
So, and I have a perfect example. There is the company Humacyte in the US, which just got their blood vessel approved, and the blood vessel is used for trauma surgery. So again, somebody needs to have, as an accident, that needs a blood vessel. And I was talking to the CEO and I said, but what's your life now? I mean, that the company, the product is approved and you got to sell. It's like, well, nothing has changed. I'm going to every single center. I'm talking to the surgeons. I'm telling them that now they can buy it and nothing has changed. And I was like, wow. I mean, the CEO, the initial founder is actually going door to door to tell their surgeons, we are here. This is what the product. And I was like, wow. That's interesting. So,
good news for you. You're still needed.
It's good news. I will still be needed for a while.
I'm sure. I mean, it's hard to replace a co-founder and the CEO anyway.
I don't know if it's hard. I mean, everybody's replaceable. But yeah, I mean, I still enjoy what I do, and I want to contribute for another 100 years if I can. So
nice. So it's basically a company that hopefully exists for 100+ years.
I mean, this company was not built. That's why we don't call ourselves a biotech anymore. It was not built for getting to somewhere in between phase 2 and 3 and sell it to big pharma. Maybe this will happen. I mean, I'm not excluding selling to big pharma whatsoever. Yeah. But it was built also because of my naivety as eventually to be a self-standing company selling skin on demand. And with that in your mind, you just go and we will catch the opportunities when they come. But, we are not trying to pack it and go. And so the future is bright. We'll see.
Nice. Have you ever thought of longevity, like somebody kind of having already a ready-made tissue of themselves available if something happens?
We can't freeze tissues, at least skin for now. So the technology is not there yet. Maybe one day this will be possible. I mean, it will be great. But what we can do is biobanking the cells. So there is an opportunity for us, and we have a fully certified biobank to eventually start, for example, banking cells of people at risk. I don't know, firefighters, soldiers, that if something happens, I don't need a biopsy to be shipped to me. I already have all the cells in the bank, and then we could already go with the skin. So we will be faster and, everything can be done quick. So there is an option of this concept of pre-banking in a way, which definitely is very appealing for a lot of Asian stakeholders, especially to bank the cells young enough, and not later for a question of longevity. But right now we are not actively working on that. So we have a biobank. We bank the cells of our patients because by law we got to do that. And because it's skin, they could need surgeries at different times. So we can always freeze and then restart when they're ready. But we don't have an active banking business right now. Yeah.
Okay. And it's not something that's being established or...
I mean, right now there is cord blood, there is the classical other banking. There is, I think, also bank for hair somewhere in the UK. But no, I mean, there is no skin cell banking activity right now, to the best of our knowledge.
Is it the same as a stem cell? Or...
We are isolating stem cells.
It's basically a stem. So if someone has a stem cell somewhere in a bank, technically you could use that.
Well, I mean, I need skin stem cells.
Okay, so, that is a different type.
At the moment, we are using your own designed skin stem cells. We are not doing gene editing, transformations, or any kind. So again, in the future, maybe. But right now, I would bank your own cells coming from your own skin. So and I cannot use stem cells from other body parts. Right now.
I see.
Again, in the future, work in progress, but not yet.
Nice. Well, yeah, it's like development of a lot of stuff happens very fast. So we never know what will come.
Yeah, and science is going really much quicker now because of many other technologies helping modeling and predicting. And so who knows? Maybe everything is going to be faster.
That brings me to... Yeah, absolutely. And it's actually an interesting one because it brings me to one of the last questions. Like if you look 50 years ahead and you imagine Cutiss will be a company not having been sold to any other company, just a standalone company. What do you imagine it to be? What can it do?
I love that question.
50 years.
50 years from now, I will be old.
I'll be really old.
That's tough. Okay, let me think about my kids. Yeah, they will be oldish too. So 50 years from now, what I can picture my company to be is the most pioneering now, so established in 50 years, in tissue regeneration. So we are not going to pharma, we are not going into medical device, we are not going into drugs of any kind. We would try to unleash the power of tissue regeneration. Think about the salamander, can we regrow body parts? And there is a lot of things popping up. I don't know whether you heard about the Japanese team, which is trying to regrow the teeth rather than doing implants. So in 50 years time, maybe Cutiss has acquired all these best tissue technologies and has condensed everything into one. And because of our machine expertise and vision, we have machines that can actually create tissues on demand, and we will empower the body of patients in need to regenerate their own missing parts rather than focusing on pharma. Of course, tissue regeneration cannot treat all diseases. I mean, of course, pharma will be needed all the time, but I would say we could be a leader, like global leader in tissue regeneration for all kinds of tissues. That would be great.
Nice. What an amazing vision to have.
Well, 50 years is long. I'll be dead.
50 years is long, but for a company, I mean, it can live on. It needs to reinvent itself all the time. Awesome. Well, we're coming to the end, which is a couple of rapid fire questions.
Yes.
I'm sure you love them.
Yeah.
One word answers.
Yes.
And they're very easy.
Yes.
Okay. Science or entrepreneurship?
Both.
It's one word. You're okay. I should have specified. Precision or speed?
Precision.
Vision or execution?
Vision.
Lab bench or boardroom?
Lab bench.
Good one. One skill every first-time biotech CEO must have.
Resilience, like find a way not to lose it. Learn how to reset yourself and start from there, because otherwise it's going to be very hard.
It's probably a good one for every startup
Yes.
CEO, isn't it? No, absolutely amazing. Thanks a lot. Admirable what you're doing every day. Greetings to your team, and thanks a lot for being on the podcast, Daniela.
Thank you, Phil.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, you can support us by rating our show on Apple Podcasts. This way, we can reach an ever-growing number of aspiring entrepreneurs.